Oof. And we are here once again with another episode of the Iron Man podcast, episode 129. So I know, guys, when this was going on Twitter, because it's simulcast between Twitch, Twitter, and Rumble. Usually, if an episode is misnumbered on Twitter, under the actual episode itself, I'll just put a pinned comment and I'll just put it as the right episode number. But we are on episode 129. And currently, right now, I'm trying to get the show on Spotify and all the other podcasting platforms with the show. But currently, right now, having some technical difficulties. So all the episodes that I did download from Twitch, when I try to put up episode 1, it didn't go through. It kept saying like file unable to process. Maybe my computer needed an update. I did all the updates actually. So I tried to download the episode on Rumble. That wasn't fully downloading. So we're just going through it today, actually. But the Cloud9 podcast is allowed to be on this podcasting platform. So yeah, I know a lot of people are wanting to watch this show and listen to it. Potentially when I have new episodes at work and when they're just doing some stuff with their kids or whatever. I'm sorry at the moment. I'm trying to get the show up there. So just bear with me. But nevertheless, we are here with Pritchard Pub, actually. What's going on, man? How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. You can call me Pritchard Pub or also AC Pritchard. Mm-hmm. Personally, I'm AC Pritchard, an author, and I run Pritchard Pub with my wife.
So. Okay. So tell the audience something about yourself you would like them to know right at the gate.
Well, let's see. I've been in indie since I graduated high school, basically.
When was that?
Oh, man, I graduated in 08.
You graduated in 08? Oh, God, You've been in indie for like, what, 16 years?
For a while, man, yeah.
I guess time flies by when you're in indie like that. So, you talking about, were you in the indie music scene?
Yeah.
Or like the comic books? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I wrote when I was in high school and like worked for the small town newspaper for a little bit, but then I went into music after I graduated and like spent like over a decade doing that. You know what I mean? Now I'm kind of I'm becoming an author and getting back into music.
You know? Okay. So before we start talking about your author and writing endeavors, the music industry, how do you feel about it now? Because I've been having this conversation with other past musicians on the show too. And the same thing with Eric July brought up in his video with like enthusiasm for like all this stuff. I've been feeling the same way for a while too. And in music, it's even weirder because I remember like as a kid or growing up, like when a new music video dropped of whatever genre you were in, like when Fall Out Boy dropped a fucking new music video and like whenever anybody dropped a new music video or a new song or a new album, there was this big like cultural hype around it. You know, it was like a big thing for someone to drop a new album, a new music video, a new song, a new track. And now it just kind of feels like there's music is just there. People like know it's there. They know a lot of the history. They like respect where it came from. You know, where the ways they had to get music. Because back in the day, you get to burn music to a CD player, had to have that, or cassette player and all that stuff. And now you just download it, you just have it. But I think it's a double-edged sword because having music to the point where you have to work to get it made it more worthwhile to have. Whereas now, when it became like super accessible, people don't kind of treat it the same. It's just kind of treated as, oh, it's just there. We could just make music kind of like whenever, which obviously, as you know, good and bad thing. But there's no, I don't feel like there's that level of enthusiasm there for the medium anymore. It's just kind of people just feel like, oh yeah, it's there. I like music. It's cool. It's like, well, that kind of fucking sucks. What happened to the days where fucking artists like Usher would drop a single and everyone just loved that shit? Like, you know, what happened that time? I mean, you know, Eminem drops a new fucking album and that everyone always talks about it, but usually outside of him for like the conversation, it just dies actually, you know?
Yeah. It seems like the pool of big names that people can get excited for is like dwindled. You know what I mean? Like you said, you could still list a couple names that people might get excited for, but like, you still get a large amount of people that like completely miss those too. Where at one point, like even people who weren't like into Usher, for example, heard that new song. You know what I mean? Or heard that it happened, heard that it released. You know what I mean? But it's I think it's like some sort of associated value attached to like how hard something is to get. Like when there's only a few names that you even know about, and the only way to get it is to buy it or to go get the physical CD from like Target or Best Buy or whatever,
Mhm.
then there's this like inherent value attached with it. Like you had to almost go on a journey to go get it. Whereas like now it's like one click, and it's free. You can download the whole album, you can skim it, move on to the next album,
Mhm.
whatever. So
Yeah, that's how it is. You go on YouTube, you get the song you want, and
yeah.
that's it. Whether it's you paid for it or you didn't pay for it, you
Hmm.
just get
Hmm.
it, right?
Yeah, nowadays paying for it is more like a tip. It's like
Right. Yeah.
you're tipping the artist by
Hmm.
paying for it.
And then you also learn the music industry has been ran by idiots because artists don't make as much because sales aren't there for like physical media anymore.
Hmm.
For specifically just for that, like even with comic books too, like people really thought like going this route of like digital was really gonna just change everything. I think it's only just made things more diluted and complicated, and
Hmm.
it's like they basically try to give easy free access to the medium that they deem pretty hard to get and acquire, while it also kind of devalued the love and enthusiasm you would naturally have for it when something new drops.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It like dilutes it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. There's this whole thing with like, well, you've heard of the band Bring Me the Horizon, right?
Hmm.
Uh, were you into them when they released their Sempiternal album?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, okay. So they were like transitioning into like a new genre at the time,
Hmm.
and you know, to an extent, all bands are indie. Like I remember back
Right.
in the
Yeah.
day, a good contract was like 17%. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You get 17. That's like okay, that's
Hmm.
decent. But like, really, is it? Not really. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, the band Bring Me the Horizon. When that album was like complete, it was like a big deal, like I said, because they're transitioning into a new genre, and the whole thing leaked like a month or two ahead of time or whatever. So everybody got it and heard it, and like that's a moment that could like break your career. But like what ended up happening is like when the album came out, people bought it anyway, and it like
Mm,
is like what I was saying about like buying it is like tipping the artist. What ended up
right.
happening is it was like a huge hit anyway, even though it leaked, because everybody who like owned it purchased it also, because it was so well done, you know,
Mhm.
at the time, that people just like were all about it, and they had everybody's support pretty
Mm.
fully at that point.
That's so yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying because like you see people having that happen, like their album will leak because it's like the internet and shit, and
Yeah.
then it's that could literally just screw over all the money you could have made potentially off the physical media sales for people buying like CDs like that, where it's not even a
Hmm.
thing that people really do as much. Where hopefully that doesn't happen to many other artists too, because that's not always going to be the case. Where people like what they actually heard and they willingly go out and support it or even buy their album off like Spotify or whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they've made the means of getting music kind of so like decentralized in a way where you could even get the full album off like Spotify and people don't even do that
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can get it everywhere, but like still seek out that freeway or whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, that's like the default way though. And like I said, you go back and you buy it when you support them, is
uh,
what I see anyway. And I mean, I get it. We gave our music away for a while, and it was a success. Like, but like we didn't
mhm,
make anything. And the little money we made off of like physicals and merch and stuff and shows,
mhm,
uh, just kind of like fed back into the band. You know what I mean?
mhm.
For whatever we needed, which ended up a lot of time just kind of being gas money or ordering another batch of CDs or another shirt or more
Do you,
shirts. I mean.
when did you get out of being a part of a band?
Oh, like 2015, something like
Well,
that.
8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah,
So, do
yeah.
you look back on that time period and think you could have just done anything differently?
Oh, yeah. There's always something you could do different, but like I
Hmm.
was learning at the time, and
Right.
still a kid when I started, and
Hmm.
like grew up in it,
Hmm.
and like was just learning as I went.
Okay.
So I mean,
And you're also married. You have
yeah,
a wife and kid. So,
yeah.
how's that? How's being married actually?
Oh, it's fantastic, man. I never thought I'd want to be married, but
Hmm.
2020, I met my wife, and
crazy time
It's like,
period too to meet your
yeah,
wife.
yeah.
Everything was locked down, as they told us. Wuhan virus killing everybody. 99%, mortality rate too. But
Oh yeah. Oh, of course, it was
right.
worse than the bubonic plague. Yeah, yeah.
So how'd that go? You met your wife, and how was the conversation like when you first met her? Was it you nervous or anything?
Well, I was a blackjack dealer at a casino.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
So you kind of
and
had to talk to people. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm,
so like it was one of the few days I didn't go home early.
mhm.
It's like open invite for anybody to go home early every day you walk in. You can
Okay.
take an EO, but I heard this pandemic thing might happen, so I was like, I should get my hours. And it was one of the few days actually was like staying my whole shift or whatever. It was
Mhm,
like 8 in the morning. It happened to be one of the few days she ever came and played cards. She's usually a
mhm,
slots player,
mhm,
and she just sat down at my table for whatever reason, and we started talking music, ironically enough, and
mhm.
you know, uh, I
You guys are
never.
both into the same genre of music.
Oh yeah, we were just like going over all kinds of bands,
Okay.
all kinds of genres.
Okay.
Eventually, I got tapped off, and my shift was over.
Mhm.
So I had to step away. But then I ran back and told her to add me on Facebook or whatever.
Oh
And
damn.
yeah, yeah,
I thought
that's like
so.
the only time
Facebook
I've
still
ever
had
done
some
that.
uses. Facebook
It's
has
like,
still some uses actually.
yeah.
Yeah. You're
It's
out
like
here
the
with the
only time
spitting
I've ever
riz.
done that too. And it's like a big no-no to interrupt the game.
Mhm.
The pit boss allowed it though. It was fine. It
Mhm.
was fine.
You're just spitting riz, all types of riz. That's the kid thing
Well,
nowadays. I don't know anymore.
the pit boss could have easily just been like, no, 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 like roll it, like call security, whatever. But
Oh,
it's
good.
fine.
Okay. So you've been
Yeah,
married for what, like 3 years,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
roughly ish. Yeah. Okay. So it's good.
yeah.
Congratulations, man. There's a lot
Thanks.
of people out there. Dudes is out here struggling.
Yeah,
Trying to
yeah,
talk to
dude.
girls.
I
What do you
saw
feel
the
about that?
opposite as I was like getting married and like building a
Mhm.
family and stuff. I saw the
Yeah.
pandemic tearing families apart and like causing issues with people.
Right.
And it was like wild from my perspective. You know,
Hmm.
so.
Yeah. What do you think about all the stuff that dudes are doing now and they're not getting no girls or like even forming meaningful relationships with people in general? Like it seems like guys are just really struggling,
Yeah,
just in
dude.
general. Yeah.
I see that. And I mean, you do see a lot more people talking about like male feelings and stuff.
Hmm.
But it doesn't go as far as like a lot of the other movements you see. You know what I mean? It's almost just like a consolation prize or like a placebo, almost
Hmm.
just like
Like it just feels added on and like tacked on rather than
y-
they really care about it. Really.
yeah, we'll acknowledge it, but like that's it. That's
Right.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So,
something that I've learned over the life, man. It's just as a guy, you just got to just tank a bunch of shit, whether it's good or bad, and just be told you got to just get over it and move on. And some people
mhm.
rise to the occasion and do it. Some people, fizzle out and try
Yeah.
to cut off their own balls. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I totally I find it fascinating looking into like how environment affects a person and also what they're predisposed to and stuff like
Hmm.
that, and just how that affects like everything with like gender and upbringing and all that stuff. It's really fascinating, because like it's hard to say it's all one thing, like as far as like how your environment affects you and what you're predisposed to. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because there is like genetic stuff going on there, but
Hmm.
there's also 100% environmental stuff. You
Hmm.
know, so
Yeah, your environment has a huge impact on the way you think about life, how you view life, and it'll dictate if you have an easy, tough life or a semi-decent, hard life. Actually, it's
mhm.
just, oh, that's
Oh,
that's the crazy world we live in, man. And it's one of these things where people have to, hopefully, when they get older, they realize, hey, your upbringing. I know you might love your parents or parent or grandparents who might raise people as shit always happens, but
mhm.
people being a product of their environment leads them to believe the things that they believe, because it's more like weird indoctrination based off whoever raises you, actually,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you kind of see
But
things through their point of view because, they're the ones who are teaching you that point of view. So,
yeah, and that's kind of what parents are there for in a way.
mhm,
Like there's limits to everything, right? Like
Mhm.
too much of anything can be too much. I've seen like people ruined by religion and like ruined by not enough religion, if that makes sense. Like I've
Yeah,
seen
you're talking
like
about a balance, right?
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like and then meanwhile, I've seen this too. When you leave like a kid alone and don't do anything with them, it's like there's like a primal state. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. They're gonna need special attention in school. I'll just say that. Uh, and it's different than the other two things. Like
Mhm.
really fascinating stuff, man. Like uh,
It's
I
just really weird because parenting, everyone tries to make all these books and all this stuff, and there's really no one guide on how to do any of that shit. I've taken care of kids from like daycares and stuff like that, and people just even doing that as a task. Kids are, the emotions all over the place. They're young. They're trying to like have fun. Kids are on their own little world. Let's just say that.
yeah,
They
yeah.
yeah. Like earlier today, I was at a Walmart and a little boy saw me. I was waving towards his little baby sister. And the mom, the little boy was like, she was like, what? Look, he had never seen a black person in his life, actually.
Oh.
I was like, what? She was like, I'm sorry. It's like, it's okay. I'm not gonna punish a kid. Like,
It's
kids are on their little world.
they got to learn about the world,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
at some point they're going to see all different kinds of people, all different kinds of
Hmm.
things, all different kinds of
Right.
animals, all different kinds of plants. Like it's got to be like an amazing thing.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
gotta be a
know it's an
fascinating
amazing
thing. Yeah.
as a parent, like seeing my
Hmm.
kid learn new stuff. You know,
How old's your kid actually? It's like 2, 3,
oh,
right?
I'm almost two,
Okay. Well,
almost
there.
two.
Oh, 2 years old. Oh God.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and parents, I throughout the many years, I'll ask them like, is people always ask a general question like, do things get easier? I don't think it ever really gets quote unquote easy.
It gets different.
Yeah, because they get
Yeah,
older. There's more to deal with at each stage of their age. Then I see daughter's going to be. You have a daughter, right, or son?
son.
So eventually he's going to be obviously a teenager, and like even that itself brings in a lot of challenges. You'll be an adult at some point. That's going to bring in a lot of challenges. I don't think anything gets easy. I think it's easier when they get older because they can do more on their own. I think that's what people are talking about generally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they can help out with some stuff, but like, yeah, there's a whole
Mhm.
new set of challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So your origin story was grew up easy life, hard life, essentially.
Oh man, I was a poor kid. Yeah,
I can feel that. Yeah, I know how you
yeah,
feel, man. We had like one can of food in our refrigerator some months, and it was
yeah.
pretty bad.
I
Let's
have
just say that.
memories of confiding in some of the other neighbor kids and stuff, and yeah, everybody had it rough though. I was just a
Yeah.
kid though and didn't realize that.
You
So,
said you were a blackjack dealer, so that means you're Vegas, right?
oh no, man, I live in Minnesota, so it's
Okay,
just
East Coast. Okay.
a casino in Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah. I still have like flashbacks of being poor at that time, and I always tell
Yeah,
myself, never going back to that ever. I'd rather actually die than live that ever again. It taught me a lot. I'm not saying it didn't, but I would
mhm,
never want to live like that ever again, you know?
yeah,
Nor do I
it's a
want any
struggle.
kids ever have to live through that either. That's just terrible.
Yeah. And that's kind of what every parent I mean that I see it's a pretty common thing anyway. They aspire to
Hmm.
just like have their kids do just at least live better than they lived, you
Hmm.
know? And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's a
And
good goal.
start talking about you being a writer, author. So you've been writing for a very long time. Since 2008, you've been writing in indie stuff. So have you ever had any books published actually?
I just published my first book this year. Uh
Okay. All right.
yeah, before that I was just publishing music
Okay.
and like I said a little stint as a columnist in a newspaper.
Hmm. So what gave you the inspiration to wanting to be a author slash writer?
Well, back in high school,
Hmm.
uh, I guess the short answer is games. You know,
Video games? Okay.
yeah. Well, yeah. I got terrible eyesight, so it makes it hard to read. So
Ooh.
like
Okay.
movies and video games, they really come in clutch as far as delivering the whole storytelling thing to me as a kid. Music too, actually. There's a lot of songs that tell stories, but I digress.
Hmm.
I'd come home from high school and
Hmm.
it was like I don't know. I just kind of got into writing. I don't know what really made me start doing it. I kind of just I had this computer and some spare time, and I could play games, which I did a lot. But I could also go mess around with just like writing a story, and because I started like getting ideas, playing like I think it was a Lord of the Rings tabletop RPG with a few buddies of mine.
Mhm.
Just that whole idea of like creating a character, I think, is what did it, and then like just having control over how the story went
Mhm.
to a kid. That's pretty like it's like unlocking another level of your imagination. Like, oh, that's possible. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Uh, tabletop RPGs kind of trick you into writing in a way.
Oh,
Uh,
so like D&D, Lord of the Rings. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically what it was.
Okay.
So what the thing about that too is it's like using a familiar IP.
Mhm.
So a young kid can like relate to something like Lord of the Rings, like, oh, I know that that's
Mhm.
comfortable, that's familiar.
Mhm.
I'll try this new idea, which is a tabletop RPG,
Mhm.
you know, and yeah, the rest is kind of history because like after that, I really like just had fun like writing a few little stories. I had like I got like half of a book. I
Mhm.
mean, to be fair, it was probably more like a quarter of a book looking back on it, just because of the way high school me spaced it out and
Mhm.
sized it and stuff like that. But uh, uh, took creative writing classes and stuff, and
Mhm.
really just like I don't know, kind of fell in love with it. Just the whole idea of like fantasy worlds and being able to create them and having characters and heroes and villains and stuff. But after high
So with
school, I
your
just went into music.
so with your story, how did you for the main character? Because as supposed to be in the Iron Age, as people call it now, but
Yeah.
Iron Age or indie space or
Hmm.
it's so weird because everyone's like too busy right now going back and forth with each other for some really odd reason because just really easy, cheap drama clicks for criticism that
Yeah.
obviously is so stupid. No, this is criticism no one would care about, even if you did point it out. It's like I told this earlier when I was with Eric's team for the Riververse. It was when it's like an Eminem rapper. That shit is like the one that everyone likes, the peanut one, the yellow one. It's like
Yeah.
man, this Eminem bag is yellow. I got a problem with this. I'm gonna go tell Twitter. And it's like
Yeah.
no one really gives a fuck about that. Even if that was an issue for someone, they wouldn't say it because it's such a non-factor. It's so not even worth discussing, even as a actual thing. And that is kind of what a lot of these creators are doing right now. Like they're discussing a bunch of non-factors that aren't beneficial to anyone. That's what I've
Yeah.
been noticing.
Yeah.
It's just a
I
bunch of
noticed that too.
just nonsense. Like motherfuckers are talking about if a character in a different fucking genre is gonna hit for them, and they don't understand how this character is even functioning because their idea of what a hero and a character in a story should be is something that they've seen someone else do. So if that
Mhm.
person doesn't do it exactly like someone else does it, then it's bad, and then it causes this big freaking friction. It's guys,
Yeah.
as I explained this to everyone, you're like, is that really true? Yes, you can't make this shit up. It's actually shit that it blows my mind thinking about it and then also talking about it on shows. But it's another thing that people do where I just find the bad faith in their criticism, not because it's their own
Yeah.
personal opinion, because everyone has their own personal opinion, but what I would find to be a little bit of bad faith is when someone compares someone else's work to someone else's work and saying that they didn't do it the way this person did. That always will always mostly turn me off because
Yeah.
that's just not how that's supposed to be. Whoever told you that's supposed to work like that, take that person, I don't know, throw them outside, throw them out the roof. I don't give a fuck what you do with them. That
Well,
all that criticism is trash. Anything else, it's fair game. I'll listen to it. But if anybody starts saying stuff like that, I tune all that shit out. That's not worth talking about. You know?
right. Right. Like I just sent over the first scene of my new Spirit Animals story that I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be releasing on Halloween
Mm-hmm.
for free. I sent it over to my little brother today. He's kind of one of my proofreaders, and he had a lot of really great criticism, but a lot of it was kind of like it came down to my style. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It was like, yeah, I could work on that passively in the back of my mind, try to like slow things down, for example. But I dwell too much on things. So like I don't know what he was saying about the pacing. is a result of me already keeping myself in check, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I digress. The whole thing kind of came down to like my style and kind of like his opinion of the style, which I completely okay with the criticism he gave me. Like, and it was good, like I said, but like
Mhm.
I can't help but feel like it was more like a preference thing. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I had to like really kind of corner him with specifically what I was looking for. Like no, narratively, like with what happened with the story was that good. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But,
Like, for like, because even doing this as a thing for it's like 2015. I girl said I've been a content creator for a long time, and I've seen so much stuff. Not because I used to write my own stuff too, and
mm,
when I sent it, not just to friends, well, the people that I had that were friends, they were the friends that weren't like the oh honey I like you because I just like you and you're just my friend and my son, right? No. I actually got the harsh shit criticism. I
hmm
actually got the blunt ones, and I was. I took all that in, and when I started doing this, criticism came in, and I would say I was abrasive to it. I just didn't understand it. I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay, what do I do wrong to this person to make them think this way? And then as you grow and as you like trying to hone in your own craft, you're like, you know what? It's good that I heard that stuff because it
yeah.
actually makes you think like, okay, I can now understand the mindset of people that might think like that, and I can use that to make my own art or my own work better. Actually,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, one of the best jobs I ever had as a kid was working as a line cook.
hmm.
Ironically enough, that job, especially when you work at a really shitty place that is really busy, and that also has a lot of employees. You're gonna get trained by a lot of different people. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They're gonna teach. Everybody's gonna teach you something different, and they're gonna say everybody else's way is wrong. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
kind of what, kind of like what you were saying about all the indies comparing people to something else and saying it's wrong when really it's just a matter of preference. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like all these roads kind of lead to the same place, and it's
Yeah.
more just like style. If that makes
One's got more hills, one's a lot more
sense.
bumpy.
Oh, oh, dude, I kid you not. I had like 4 different cooks try to teach me how to make an over easy egg different ways. You
Even
know,
though when you work, people don't know because I work in the food industry too. If people don't know, there's literally procedures to not just how restaurants do things, but there's procedures how to actually make something this way. You don't deviate away from that because the
yeah,
reason why you don't is because you'll make it wrong. It's just how it
yeah.
works. But people in the actual business don't do that because they want to do it the faster way or their way, or they even think the procedure is wrong. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Humans
I know.
humans want
Yeah,
to express themselves. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
So if your procedure is, hey, flip your meat this way, someone on the line will be like, no, flip it this way at this time, so it'll come up even faster. It's not
Yeah,
the procedure, but you're like, you know what, it ain't wrong. It's
and it's
just
just
a little
flipping
cool.
the damn burger. It's just
Yeah.
flipping it.
Then
Yeah,
the boss is like, why aren't you guys following procedures? They're like,
yeah.
my bad. I'll start doing it right now.
Nobody's doing it the right
Nobody's been
way.
doing
Yeah,
it only until like inspections come through and
yeah.
shit.
Yeah, dude, that shit's so true. It's like you learn a lot from that too because you have to
Mhm.
like deal with people. You
Right.
have to
Mhm.
like okay.
Especially with line cooking, like you said, it's like personality clashes and
Oh yeah. You meet
bosses
characters.
yelling. Yeah, uh, you learn exactly what to tune in and what to throw out. Or some
Yeah,
days you're just like,
that's what I'm
uh
getting
huh,
at.
yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Especially with the criticism and like I don't want it to come off like I can't take criticism from my brother, for example, with
Hmm.
that story I brought up.
Right.
I ended up honing in on some stuff that I could walk away from, you know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
did take criticism, but I knew what I could just kind of like let be because
Hmm.
I understood oh that's kind of just his opinion, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not technically wrong kind of thing,
Hmm.
The egg still gets cooked over easy, if that makes sense.
The
So
meat still gets flipped the same way. That's how it
yeah,
works, man.
it got flipped. What do you
Yeah,
want?
my younger brother was the same way when I was writing my story. He was like, "This is terrible," and not the whole thing. It would be like certain parts, like this. He's like, "This part here makes no sense. This is bad," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just didn't understand it. So honestly, I was such a huge ego back then. I just let it stay, and I read it
Yeah,
back. I was like, "No, he was right. This is
he was right.
absolutely terrible. Yeah, he's for sure 100% right. This is absolute
Yeah.
dog shit." And I fell into a trap of just you know, like when you're writing something, other ideas start creeping in as you're writing a
Yeah.
concept. So you start going on tangents of that other concept itself, and you should be focused on the main thing. That was always my biggest problem when it came to
You,
writing, actually.
you should pursue those, I think, in my opinion. Like
Hmm.
let the story chase you down that rabbit hole, but like try to get good at organizing it
Hmm.
because you're gonna need to go back on the main path at some
Right.
point.
Hmm.
But those rabbit holes can lead to some like real nice world building, new
Hmm.
characters, events that you didn't anticipate and stuff. But I mean, you can always just keep going from the rabbit hole, wander back to the main path, and then when you go back on that first edit, you try
Hmm.
to make everything, good.
Like I
The
even
whole
like your way and other people's way, because everyone's trying to do like a graphic novel comic book thing, which is going to take a
Yeah,
lot of money to get it funded and raised.
yeah,
Honestly, doing the novel route of Amazon just printing on demand,
yeah, dude.
and then at that point, you know, it is kind of mega corporation keeping a hold of some of your worth, but it's like at least you take away the act of someone wanting to fund your work. They have enough money, they fund it. Now all it's up to you is just write a story and get readers.
Hmm.
It's a give and get, but people always bring up, well, it's you kind of let them print your stuff, and it's like, hey man, life works that way. It's a give and a get. It's
Hmm.
how it works in life. If you don't get that concept, anybody watching, you're gonna learn today. It's just how it is. You know,
Oh, and there's
you want to
this
get your work out there, they have a big website. How else are you going to get it out there unless you promote it yourself or fund it
100%.
yourself, you know?
100%. It's
Hmm.
like there's this okay, so there's this whole idea 20 books to what is it? 20 books to
Hmm.
50K or something like that.
Hmm.
It's that whole idea of successful indie authors or whatever. Uh, Basically like you can keep writing books
Right.
and once you hit like 20 books, if you've put like care into all of those things in every step of the way and you've really tried, like by the time you hit like 20 books,
Hmm.
which an indie can pump out like on Amazon way
Right.
quicker than like a published author, for example.
Hmm.
So like that 20 it could happen in 1 or 2 years. And that's often the timeline I see is 1 to 2 to 3 years. And then they have like at least double digits books by then.
Hmm.
Uh, but by then, people are trying to track how long it takes to actually become successful and stuff. And like the number seems to be around 20 if you're doing it right and if you're
Hmm.
like caring for it. And that's the thing. Like you
Your
can just
genre
keep
is
making
fantasy,
books.
right?
That's what I'm starting with and specializing in. I'd like to
Hmm.
branch into sci-fi at some point too, though.
Okay.
I have ideas, but
Yeah, it's one of those things where, to get an audience, as being a content creator, as people tell you, you got to stick with one thing. For me, it did
yeah,
work. I can't say that advice is wrong. It really does get you an audience. But for me, I've always been someone where I like so many different things. So when YouTube kind of axed my first channel because reasons,
mhm,
I was like,
yeah,
you know what? I'm gonna rebrand my second channel to the obviously the only channel I could have, and just put out what I want to talk about there. Not,
yeah,
and I
dude.
learned over time, not every video has to be a hit. There's videos that are going to be less viewed than others. I could put the same thing for like books. If I put out a book series, one
Hmm.
book series is not going to do as the other four I may have out there, and that's fine.
It's not going
Sometimes,
anywhere.
yeah,
That's the
and
thing.
sometimes you put your heart and soul into a lot of these things. I told because this one other guy, he was like, "Man, I put all my effort in all of this stuff, and sometimes it sucks when it doesn't pay off." That's the harsh reality of this stuff. Not everything you do is going to pay off. The only
Yeah.
way that would even be a conceivable thing where you don't technically fail or it doesn't meet your standards is if you have some sort of massive audience, but because you're some big personality. So your
Hmm.
base is going to be so high, you can't really fail by bad numbers because you have such a huge audience. People like us, that would be the case for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, yeah. And you just got to keep casting your net out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You got to keep trying and just keep plugging away. Like with my channel. By the way, if you ever want to be a guest over at the Pritchard Pub, we'd love to have you on. Be
Anytime,
great.
man. Yeah.
We'll schedule something. But we have not been afraid to like start streaming at like 11 p.m. for example, like and just go until like almost 2 in the morning a couple times actually, and it's because like we know that there's not going to be much of an audience, but the thing is like we really value building up that backlog, that investment. You know what I mean? Because like
Hmm.
those episodes ain't going anywhere. Just like that book that doesn't necessarily do well right away, it's still print on demand. It's still there, and it's not going anywhere. That's the thing. Uh, and you can
Right. It's the
update that
same.
book cover. You can
Yeah,
edit
we used
it.
to go live at the same time. So that is like my mindset is how people start to grow, because eventually this is how these algorithms work to the best of their degree to some extent. You do find people that are up at that time looking for something to watch, and they'll potentially choose you as an option,
Yeah.
But it's also, if that's the best time you can go live, and that's the best time that's going to be worthwhile to you, because obviously kid takes up a lot of time and jobs and shit like that.
Mhm.
If your audience can watch you then and they like watching you then, eventually it'll show. I told people when I first started doing the Nightwing podcast, or I first started live streaming in general from my other podcast, I turned into that one, and now we have this one. We started out live streaming, and that shit would peak at like 9 viewers watching it.
Yeah.
Most of it was 5. When it first started, it was 5 people. I told people over time, it just,
That's a
like, how
lot
did
when
it
it
get bigger?
starts, though.
Yeah, I tell people this. I know people make fun of people having like 5 or 9 viewers. That's 5 people that are choosing to give you their hard-earned time and to hear you speak. Like, the number might be low, but at least you have someone. At least you got something. People look at like big numbers, and they're just sitting here going like, "Well, I gotta have this big number of people that are watching my streams or my podcast." Or it's like, no, you get 2, 3 people. Act like fucking you have 100 people or some shit. Because you want to make sure, like you said, the back catalog, they can go back, watch that previous episode, and go, this was just as good as, something now that I'm watching, So they took the amount of time and care back when I was doing it, when there was no one here, and they're still applying that same concept. But people are always like, you know what? Oh my God, you have 4 viewers watching your streams. How much do you have? Random nobody? What the fuck? What are we comparing there? Oh God. So are we only, so it's not, is it about quality of content to people, or is it about numbers on a screen? Because I always find that weird of a concept with people. Is it numbers you're chasing, or are you chasing actual people? Because that's very different,
Right. I'm not going for like big audience numbers at first. Like I said, that backlog with good guests, good episodes, that I can like be proud of, like letting sit up there for a long time. You know what I mean? And just have faith that people check out the backlog at some point. Like I think a lot of podcasters can learn from like some of the bigger names, and
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
one of the podcasts I've listened to for a long while now is the Joe Rogan Experience.
I did.
And
Yeah, I had to learn a lot about handling shows. So for me, it wasn't Joe Rogan. I don't think I've actually watched an episode of his. I think I watched part of like the Robert Downey Jr. one, when he asked him like, would he ever do Iron Man again? And he was Jay was like, nah, I'm good.
But I realized the appeal of that show is not necessary. It's not like Rogan. A percentage of his audience
for sure,
is
it's
Rogan.
definitely not him. You're not even lying there.
Right. It's the guests.
Yeah.
It's the guests. So if I make sure that each of my episodes is like something that like even the guests can be proud of, like it really like it's this fun time with this guest, we're having this conversation. And then you put a number next to it. People can look up numbers and they can look up names. Boom. It's not that hard. You hear that, AC was on the Iron Man podcast. You can type in AC under the Iron Man and, find him or whatever kind of thing. Robert Downey Jr., you can go to Rogan right now and probably find that one.
For me, it was esports personalities that I've been watching for so long, and they had like a lot of podcasts and a lot of episode series on their channels. And when I first started, it wasn't that I couldn't carry a conversation. It was more like I had to realize there are days you're not going to have like topics because there's no news really. You just have to form a conversation with someone about almost anything. You have to have that natural ability, I think, doing this, because if you run out of steam because you're all just based in one thing, then if there's no topics on a certain day because there's no news, because even when news is going on, like even when new movies and TV shows are happening, there's still always weeks and days where there's nothing going on. It just happens, right? It just randomly happens where there's no news going on. So what do you do in those days? What I learned is just, you bring on people that you have a good connection with and you start chatting it up. People just chat up. Have a good old time,
Oh,
then
sure.
when there is like episodes, you can have like news and all that stuff, it'll be episode you can have talk about like movies and TV and all that stuff. But as long as you were able to, be able to work on yourself and cast out a lot of the other stuff that can't work, it honestly is a good thing, because I think people don't understand with being a personality doing this, you have to be able to carry out a conversation and fully flesh out your thoughts. Because what people do, what I see, man, is like people don't really fully flesh out their thoughts a lot at all.
Right.
So they understand a concept to a surface level. But when you're really diving into how they feel about it, they don't really say how they feel about it because they haven't really thought about it. And I always tell people this advice: if you're gonna start doing this, flesh out your thoughts on everything you've mostly ever thought of. That way, when people ask you how you feel about specific things, it could be like about race, gender, it could be literally anything. Actually, just basically anything. You'll be able to give a well thought out answer because you've thought about it and you've honed in on how you think about it because you'll be able to fully think about it before you even started having a show, you know?
Right. And like, if you don't like, I don't know. I feel like people are afraid to not take a side, if that makes sense. Like you're saying some days are
Mhm.
not newsworthy. Well, like lately, the last week or so, it's been pretty newsworthy. It's just not the type of
Yeah.
news that
There's a
anybody,
war in the background going on, in our
yeah,
backyard.
nobody wants to talk about that. But yeah, just like I've seen enough to know I don't want to take a side in that particularly. Like it's all bad. So it,
Oh yeah.
that means I haven't looked into it too much. Also, so
Well, it's
somebody,
all yeah. There's another thing with that is if you honestly feel like you never feel like doing this, you have to comment on something. That's the
yeah,
thing too.
yeah,
You know, because then you're at that point, you're just kind of forcing yourself to. Like, if an audience member asks you, then obviously, be respectful and give your opinion. But
yeah,
if it's not something you truly care about on anything, I'm saying this is not something to care about, but
right,
I just don't talk about those things I don't care about, you know?
yeah, yeah, and it's okay to be like, I don't really feel strongly on that.
Hmm.
Not, and I hope you don't hate me for not feeling strongly on it. I
Hmm.
respect your opinion. Can we, boom.
Oh, for anyone who's watching this live, if everyone's going to ask if I have a YouTube channel, yes, I do. But we don't have podcasts. So the podcasts are on Rumble, Twitch, and Twitter. That's where they are at. But I do have a channel where I do pre-recorded content. Actually, just put out a video today.
Oh,
Honestly,
sick.
I'll drop the link in the private chat. You can put it in your live chat right now. Let me see.
Sounds good.
Copy
And
paste.
I'll save that, and you
Here we
can drop
go, right
whatever
there.
else.
Yeah. So
Either.
I had to. Oh, also, what else is the best way of giving people advice for this? Oh, not even just sometimes people don't even need like let's say research. Researching stuff is very, very helpful and very good. I would never doubt that. But
Yeah.
sometimes someone being themselves and giving their personal experience on a topic matters much more than what you're going to read on an article, potentially when you're going over news or whatever.
Yeah.
How you viewed the property, have you viewed this your entire life, how your perspective has changed. Because people are there to hear your perspective for the most part.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
good synergy and good people being on to be
And
self-explanatory thing.
transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I have no doubt that for just to continue the example without going too far into it, what's been all over the news over in the Middle East, I have no doubt that both sides, believe that they're the good guy. I have
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah,
They
with
both
people
probably
like
believe they're
that,
the good guy.
they're always the good guy in their story.
Yeah.
Now for me, this is the thing that I said last night on YouTube, so I can't really talk about too much about this, but I'll say one thing about it, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
I think doing that stuff to women and children and people
Yeah.
is just instantly not going to get someone to your cause. And that's just terrible
Nope.
stuff in general.
Yeah.
I understand they might have been doing very bad things, and I'm not excusing their bad behavior either. But what that person is doing is that's just immoral. It's
Well
just
said.
very bad.
That is well said.
I'm not saying that this other place is kind of sound fucked up, didn't have it coming by their actions, but someone else doing that is just as wrong. You
can't fight fire with fire.
Yeah,
right.
And people don't understand is there's some really bad people in the world, and there's no convincing them that they're not bad. That's
because they think they're good.
Yeah,
right?
He actually generally doesn't think he do anything wrong, which is he's insane. Hang that motherfucker. But that's just how it works with people. Yeah.
But so we're like on the same page with that. Like it should be okay for people to remember that they don't necessarily, if they don't feel strongly, they don't necessarily have to take a side. But like when things get bad, you should probably start looking into stuff more. Like especially when it hits home.
Right.
A little research doesn't hurt. But yeah, like if I got cornered at like a convention someday and people started like cramming political questions down my throat to try to get like a gotcha line, I would not be afraid to just be like, I don't really put much thought into that. So I don't know if I could provide a valuable answer for you at this time. If you have a question about the novel, I'd love to answer that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard, but I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people get in those positions and they feel compelled to like literally just make a choice and then stick
Mhm.
to that because they've invested that that choice that they've made. You know what I mean? They can't admit that they're wrong or whatever it is,
Mhm.
But
I also another piece of advice for someone who's watching is being able to, if someone does have a disagreement with you, let's say you bring on friends as guests or guests you meet online over time, having a disagreement is fine. Never let a disagreement on anything, for the most part, ruin potential podcast guests you'll have or
right.
people you want to have on for future shows.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever personally done it myself, and if I did, I'm sorry to anyone who feels that way. But when it, I think people should understand that it's okay to disagree. It's fine to disagree. Like I don't like fucking vegetables on my fucking burger. So we're debating like
Oh,
burgers or whatever. And someone
yeah.
else, I think vegetables are the fucking best. And I go, that's trash. I wouldn't. You shouldn't let that kind of thing be like, I can't have this guy on the show because that's stupid. You know,
Disowned, unfriended, blocked.
blocked, called
Yeah.
an instaphobe. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Never let like people arguing over Batman and Spider-Man having fucking fallouts, and it's like that's really not worth losing a friend over for
Right.
debating on a superhero. Like
At the
what?
end of the day, you're arguing over corporations and fictional
Yeah, like
characters.
right,
So,
yeah. And you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and go, man, that was stupid.
yeah.
It'd be like to sit in a dark room and go, oh, that was pretty dumb. And
Man, if
the
they
things
both feel
we're
that strongly, they should make a new Spider-Man and a new Batman. That's better,
right,
and succeed.
right. And what's another thing I could probably offer? Let's see. Disagreement's fine. Structure is fine. If you have a structure, you could start making one. I would also offer that. Fleshing out
Yeah.
your thoughts. Pacing yourself. Don't feel like you have to put out something.
Right.
If there's some days you're tired, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Even if you do content like once a week and you're consistent with that, that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
and that's just how the cookie crumbles on a lot of things, people. It's just how the Iron Ages work for people.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe I almost forgot this one. It's a very important one. You are not entitled to anybody coming on your shows. And that doesn't mean small people. Small people are kind of usually always going to be coming on. I'm talking about big people.
Yeah.
Like when people say these stupid things of like, oh God, this big person isn't shining any smaller person out. All right, Mr. I was fucking entitled and never had to work for shit. Nobody is entitled to do anything for you at all, regardless of their size of their audience on a fucking social media platform.
Yeah.
I don't know who told you they should. That's some weird liberal shit. Someone's probably told you. It's not how that
like
works.
They're like conflating the idea of like, oh, that would feel really nice if they did that.
Yeah.
With the idea that they need to do it. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And no, yeah, you're right. It would feel nice, but they don't need to. So.
Yeah, because people always will bring up like, well, this bigger content creator then doesn't shout out smaller people. Doesn't have to. Doesn't need to. Doesn't want to, and that's all totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, we force bigger people to talk to us? It's like, no, they should want to do that because they genuinely want to do that. And that's also, reaching out to a bigger person, that's fine. If they do want to have you around, that's great. You get access to a bigger audience, potentially more exposure, which is obviously very good. But if you really only want to be around someone because of their audience size, that person's not going to last anyway. That person only wants you for a number they see on a screen.
What's the conversation really going to be like? You know what I mean? If that's the case.
Right.
And I've seen this a couple times.
Right. I've seen it too. People will literally, I've seen throughout many years, I've been doing it for a long time. People will forsake who they are just for a bigger influencer or content creator and forsake everything they've ever believed in, thought, because it'll get access to a bigger group of people. In theory, there was this theory you might get those people. This is not you're going to get those people just because you're on that person's show. It's not even how that works. Conversion rates are really hard to do in a lot of businesses.
Yeah. Well, because like the people got to, I don't know. There's every clip is like, every click somebody has to make is like a hurdle they have to jump over. You're asking somebody to jump with every click.
I don't know if you ever read this comic book story, The Killing Joke with Alan Moore. where Joker
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, Joker gave a story where two guys jumping over a ledge and one calling the other one crazy because they're already both escaped insane asylum convicts. It's like, no, you are asking for that. Like, hey, go check this other person out that's here. And for someone that's your audience member, they're gonna be like, why should I check a person out? People don't think like that. I mean, casuals are casual for a reason, but they'll sometimes question like, why am I checking this person out? What does this person have to offer me? Because that's how people function. What do you have to offer me as a person? And not like material wise. It's like, if I'm going to subscribe to you or follow platform work and give you my time, I need something out of it. Whether it's your personality, whether it's your video editing skills, whether it's how you speak about a topic, you know, just, and people don't think about any of these things and just go like, you know what? I want a bigger person to shout me out. Even those persons not put in any work at all or effort, or tries, actually just want just an easy way to get out of this. Hell no, that's not how this works. What? I wish it was like that. I wish I could put out a YouTube video, hits like 500,000 views. I get like 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
we're already here. We're struggling to get 30 views around these places. That's fine.
It's good. We're money in the bank. No more work required. Just boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey, you put out some videos some days, and all of them are gonna hit. That's just how it's gonna work. I put out a video today. That shit has like 9 views, 1 like. That's how the cookie crumbles. How it works.
It's the same with books. It's the same with stories. Like that's why I'm doing things the way I'm doing it. Like I have my full-length novel. It's not released. It's finished. I'm about to send it over to Daniel P. Riley. You know, once I've finished.
Oh, awesome guy. Yeah.
A few personal edits first. You know.
Okay.
But I understand that like 150,000 words is not for everybody. For example, like you see a lot of critics like look at a list of books that, oh, what should I review next? A lot of it, you know, turns them off when it's over 100,000 or like after a certain amount at least. Like, I mean, we're only human. So like that's why I went the route of publishing like a novella with 3 separate stories in it, because I figure like if you got my book and you picked it up and opened it up, the first story is not your cup of tea or whatever, you could go to the next story. And I made sure that the second one was drastically different from the first one. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like casting your net out with this new series I'm releasing. It's going to be ongoing with an episodic. You know what I mean? So like, if you don't like one episode, maybe you'll like the next one, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And some of them are going to fail. That's just the fact of life. Like some of them are not for everybody. Or
also,
like,
remember, failing is fine. Do not let it. It's gonna suck. It will suck. I'm not gonna seriously. It will suck, but you got to push past it. You know, you have to, because failing upwards in this would be like you fail upwards. You go, okay, this didn't work. Let's try and make sure I don't do the same mistakes that potentially hindered the other work. You know, there's infinite. As someone told me, there's an infinite amount of reasons something can or may not pop off. There's reasons. There's so many. Oh God.
A lot of it could just be bad luck. For real. Like
luck is a part of this. That's a huge part of this, you know?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Also, people are saying this is a performance-based industry. When things don't perform very well, people kind of consider those things failures. And that's fine.
Bro.
You know?
There's countless books that we know are amazing that nobody's read. We know those exist. There's countless books that go unread, you know, and we know they're amazing. Those are out there. It's sad to think about. It's the same with music. It's the same with indie movies, indie games. You know, there's that indie game out there that could be as popular as Among Us or, you know, any of those other, you know, viral games. Just sitting there right now. None of us know about it. And that's just a truth, you know.
Like what you said just right there about the book series that people that probably never even picked up or read that are probably like bestsellers of all time. Well, even that has its own level of bullshit aligned to it. But I guess what I could lead off with that is there's such an infinite amount of storytellings and books and anything out there. You see how competitive that is, right? There's so much competition in this. The chances of yours hitting that freaking crazy threshold is insane in and of itself. There's so much competition here. And since, as you said before, you're already in an indie niche scene. Oh, hell, you're already competing for already the smaller audience there, actually. You know?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Fucking crazy, man.
I I think that doubles back to what you were originally saying about indies being at each other's throats recently,
Hmm.
just squabbling, and like this scarcity mindset that's been kind of like infecting everybody lately. You know, James Craig, I call him the Kraken because the dude is so ruthless with his critiques, but I love
Hmm.
it. I love it. The dude's awesome. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a sign of honesty. But he just
Hmm.
released a video, I think today. I think it was today. Just kind of about the subject, indies coming at each other's throats, and just the scarcity mindset, and that's like there's not enough to go around, like you enter
There's
a
not enough
scene.
mouths. Yeah, there's too many mouths to feed.
y-
Or
they feel that way,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You enter a scene, you look around, you see everybody on the same level as you, and you feel like there's not enough food to go around. You know what I mean? You know what I
Mm.
mean? But there's like billions of people on the earth, several countries. Like you could go on and on about like statistically how that's like just a falsehood and kind of
Yeah,
like a
because I think
mental
when people
mindset.
put out those kind of numbers, they have to realize that there could be like, let's say there's a million people in this kind of scene. Let's just give a round number like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Those million people aren't going to always. Well, this is just how they would work. They wouldn't. That wouldn't be a million people for you, because then that
No.
would have to be divided up in many fractions of many people that are looking to get part of that million people. Now, a million
Yeah.
people in this scene seems kind of like a lot when I mention it to people, but in reality, when you put in all the creators, there's
1%.
yeah, you might get 5 people, and that
Yeah.
might be lucky in and of itself.
And then you got to try to find another scene or try
Mm-hmm.
to acclimate to this one or whatever the issue is that's holding you back at 5 or whatever. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because how many people does anybody really know in these kind of scenes where they can do this as full time and live off of this? I know very few.
Right.
Quite,
I
like
don't think there's any one scene that you can just like live off of. Really, it comes down to like you can't just sell to like your own tribe. You got to
mhm,
somehow uh, be able to represent the ideals that you want to represent, but appeal to everybody. It's the classic age old, trying to market to everybody kind of thing. You're going to
mhm.
have to if you want to like become like a big thing that actually affects culture at the end of the day. Cause like, yeah, you could be a big deal in your tribe and like really speak some truth, but those ideas can't get out there if it's just trapped within the bounds
Mhm.
of wherever your tribe is. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're kind of restricted by those limits. You know what I mean? So
Oh God. So if anyone's watching this live on Rumble, stream randomly ended, but I'll just upload the show as usual. I'll just download it and upload it. Holy
mm.
crap! Don't you just love these platforms? I love modern technology. Like for like randomly, even on Twitch, the stream will just end. Like what? They said I didn't enter in the stream key right.
What?
It's like yes, I did.
That's weird.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
What?
And you
Oh
said
yeah, yeah.
there's a problem with Rumble, you said?
Yeah, yeah, for Rumble, it's still streaming to everywhere else because
Oh, okay.
it's still going good on yours and
Oh.
everywhere else. It's just
Good.
that's so odd. What is going on with these platforms? Like Twitch had this yesterday where or no, when I was talking to Tiny, where the stream ended and it's restarted again at the part we were at. And I was like, what is this?
Oh,
What the
man.
heck? Yeah, it capped out at 55 minutes. So oh yeah, yeah. More work I
It
have to do. I love it. I love it.
yeah, yeah, I hear you. Well, it's
Yeah,
going other places, and that's good at least. I was gonna say,
that's
Rumble seems to be the one that, is a good fallback, but that's the one having issues, so I won't say that.
yeah. I mean, this is just today. This has never happened like ever.
Yeah.
It's just first time everything. But I guess that's how technology works. It's just
Mhm.
how this cookie crumbles. And people want to also act like Rumble has no issues too. And like that's
Yeah.
definitely not true. There's
Nope.
quite a bit of issues over here. Every
There's
place has
issues everywhere.
issues. Yeah, no
Yeah.
place is perfect. Whoever told you guys that is lying to you.
No, no, and no place is perfect. No, for sure. But yeah, like more on that scarcity mindset, like you said,
Yeah.
like with the competitiveness, like yeah, it is like a really competitive environment on the surface, like when you're looking at it from the outside. But like once you get into it and you kind of like make yourself at home, settle in, like become
Mhm.
comfortable, You can kind of start seeing how some people are succeeding, how people interact with each other, how the successful people interact with other people. In some cases, that feeds into the rage baiting that you were talking about. In other cases, some people are good examples of like, no, you just like maintain a professional, like you be nice to everybody kind of thing and don't engage with negativity. There's different ways to approach it, but the reality is like we're not like competing with each other. There's plenty of people. There is not like this scarcity, and even though it seems competitive, you're competing against yourself to become a better creator tomorrow than you are today, and that's the real competition right there. So
this is your wife, right? I think.
Yeah.
You love him until he's shitting on your work like you murdered his immediate and extended family. Yeah. People are. It's weird how you mentioned the criticism thing with people is because this was kind of designed as a thing where we can take criticism, but it won't be like the mainstream where they blacklist people and they treat you bad if you criticize their products. People, I sit on this side of the exact same thing. So I was like, are we just becoming the thing that people said we shouldn't be? Because that's just so counterintuitive to what people wanted out of this, actually,
Right. What the people I try to gravitate towards are those I see giving like good faith criticism and stuff like James Craig, for example. He's one of the critics I brought up.
Interesting
I've
fellow.
seen some
Say
pretty
that.
harsh criticisms from him, but they didn't come off as bad faith, just like his opinion. You know what I mean? So he's one that I enjoy listening to. Like, just it's fascinating at the least, even if you disagree with the guy. But like, you just got to gravitate towards good faith people that are going to give you the feedback you need, and try to be that good faith person too. That's like not so quick to just be like, oh, I hate that, because like it's okay to dislike something, but like at least provide some feedback, some examples, so that they can like get better. Because if you just say you don't like it, then you're just that's bad faith. You know what I mean? You're just kind of tearing it down.
I think James, like your wife brought up, James is a guy I've had him before. Interesting guy, because I think that's where I would be like, even if I disagree with what he's saying, it's in a way, his style comes off in a way you're like, I get what this guy is saying. I like it. That's kind of, I think people need to develop their own styles and how they're gonna, be able to, fully flesh out their thoughts, because I think people are too technical on some things. Like recently is like in Eric's book, Ice Number 2, where fucking a dude's complaining about a castle. Like, what? Like, what the absolute fuck? If I saw it in a book, if your book had a castle in it as I'm reading it, I'm going, all right, cool. Next page. I'm not sure like the technicality of this castle doesn't really match the page.
Gotcha. Fuck. He's complaining about the details on the castle.
Yeah. Something about the composition of how it's shot and how it's drawn. It's like, who gives a fuck about that?
Man, dude, that's just like a sign that, okay, like when people are nitpicking your work that hard, where they're like, that's obviously like you're trying to find something, okay? And you can always be more technical to the point where you find something with anything, like even like the greatest art of all time, like the greatest novels of all time. You can apply a technical lens and then always apply an even more technical lens to those works and find something. You can find something, like no matter what. So it's just all about where people want to stop with that and like really try to approach it in good faith. Like try to find stuff that like universally drags this piece down. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to offer your opinion, but it's also important to understand when it is just your opinion and not like just something that you think is like technically wrong.
It's also to understand that, it's just because it's your opinion doesn't mean everyone else shares that exact opinion too. Many people think that it's like, hey, I think this sucks, and I know everyone else does. How you know that is you ask them to like, I don't know. That's how opinions work. You're kind of guessing if your opinion kind of matches with someone else when you say it. All right. Yeah.
You're just sharing it. Yeah.
I'll ask you one last thing before we head out, which is do you have any special shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular, and anything else you want to say before we head out?
Well, shout outs to my wife for keeping us company here. Love you, Katie. And I shouted out Craig already a couple times. Catch the Iron Age Nights stream on Friday. They're celebrating their 1 year.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna pop in on that.
Mhm.
Go head over to YouTube and find our YouTube channel, Pritchard Pub. Sub to the pub. You can find me on Twitter at _C_Pritchard. And you can find my book on Amazon.com/author/AC Pritchard. All the proceeds to Mortal Descent go to the comic adaptation, which I'm having adapted by Luke Stone, the founder of Fund My Comic. He's
Luke, great guy, awesome guy.
Yeah, he's adapting story number 3 in the book. If for those who check it out, I'm really excited for that. I got a second artist too, but I could ramble on and on about everything I'm working on. Spirit Animals this Halloween. That's free, episodic. You know, we'll have you on at some point. Check that out.
Oh
everybody.
yeah, man. Anytime. Anytime. So thank you guys for watching. If you were watching this on Rumble, don't worry. I'm just gonna download the episode off Twitch and just upload it as a regular upload, which is whatever. It's how technology works, how the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's fine.
It happens.
Yeah. We'll see you guys later. Have a great